this book was really important to me, and it also has bisexuality representation. That was like a whole dance. Bisexuality representation. Okay, I need to stop it. It had bisexuality representation. Hi everybody and welcome back to my booktube channel, Books with Leo, and today I am here to talk about all of the books that I've read in April. So, I did read quite a lot of books in April actually. Oh, and also, by the way, yes, my hair's pink. This is a result of quarantine, I'd say. I was just bored and all of a sudden it was pink. That's not true, technically seen, because I've always been like this and it might have also been pink if you weren't in quarantine. But, you know, it is pink, so... Yeah, so I did read quite a lot of stuff in April. I have my Goodreads here on my phone because I don't have any memory cells and I'd like to actually remember what I read. So in April, I read 14 books. Yeah, that's a lot actually. Okay, so yeah, let's just start at the beginning. The first book I finished in April was Giant Days, which is a graphic novel, and this is one of my favorite graphic novel series, next to Heartstopper of course, but you've all heard me talk about Heartstopper, so that's not new in any way. Giant Days definitely also is one of my favorite graphic novel series. I think I read the first in the series a couple years ago and now I did a reread because it's one of my favorites, like I said already 3 times. So Giant Days is about 3 girls who are best friends and who meet because they are college roommates, and it's all about them being in college, going to school, university. It's about discovering your sexuality, it's about how friendship works, how crushes work, how studying for the first time is, school pressure. It's about all these different things, partying, hooking up with people you shouldn't hook up with. It's very adult in that way. There's sex scenes in it, well, not like actual sex scenes, but you know, people are doing the stuff. And there's bisexuality representation in there, and it's really good. It's super funny. Gives me all the heartwarming feelings that I would want from a graphic novel series, because as you all know, I am living for everything that is feel good. I love a good feel good book. It's all I need. And Giant Days is definitely one of those. And I've only read the first one in this series, and I really want to continue and read all of the Giant Days graphic novels, so I really should. But yeah, I definitely really enjoyed this one, and I'd recommend them to anybody. The next book I read in April was The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski, or also known as The Last Wish, which is the first book in the Witcher series, and I think most of you know this because it has been turned into a Netflix show, which is very popular. I've not seen the Netflix show. I am more curious towards the Netflix show now that I've read the first book. This is not really written as a classical fantasy book, it's more so, it feels like a short story collection, which is remarkable because normally I am so bad at short story collections, but actually this was pretty enjoyable for me, so that's like a new thing. In this book we follow Geralt, and he is sort of injured in a battle with a striga, which is some sort of creature, because he's a witcher and they hunt and kill creatures and monsters. Yeah, so he's like in this sort of sanctuary where he's going to rest because he's been injured, and then from that sanctuary he shares all these stories of his journeys and the adventures that he's been on as a witcher, and that is basically this book. I really enjoyed it. I think it's very humorous at points. It does have some like classical sexism, like fantasy sexism, which is just really stupid and unnecessary in a lot of plot points, but it also has some strong female characters, so it's like, it's pretty balanced out, I'd say. And it's nice that this is not an American written book, it's Polish, I think, so that's, you know, a different corner again, and that's nice too. And yeah, I'd recommend this to anybody. I think this is really good if you're trying to get into fantasy, because it doesn't read like a classical fantasy, but it does have elements of it, so you really get used to it, which is amazing, really. So yeah, this one. The next book that I read in April, tell me Goodreads because I cannot remember. The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza, written by Sean David Hutchinson. You guys, I love Sean David Hutchinson. He writes with such a sort of coarse way, but in like the best way possible. His books are really fun, and they always include important themes and a lot of LGBTQ themes as well. And The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza had this really big theme of making life choices and having difficulty with making life choices. And I'm just really bad at making choices in life, really. I'm not bad at it, like, I don't think you actually can be bad at something like that, but I always struggle with it a lot. So this book was really important to me, and it also has bisexuality representation. That was like a whole dance. Bisexuality representation. Okay, I need to stop it. It had bisexuality representation. So that was really good, and oh my god, I'm falling over. Why am I like this? That was really good, and I enjoyed that a lot. So, summary, I'm summarizing it. This book is about Elena Mendoza, who was born by pathogenesis, I think. And that is basically that she was born out of only her mum. She has no dad. So this is like some rare thing that happens to cells and whatever. All through her life, she's heard voices, like, for example, like the mirror could call out to her, or like a wall or a door, or just a random object that should not be like living in any way. She's heard these voices, and they've always like sort of told her what to do. So she's like psychic in a way. And then one day she's at work in Starbucks, and she approaches this girl she's been liking for ages. And so she's talking to this cute girl, and then a shooting happens, and then she saves the girl's life because that girl gets shot because of her. But then the shooter disappears up into the sky in a white beam of light. I know this sounds crazy, but it's really good. And then from there on, she sort of starts to discover that she has healing powers and what that means, and the choices she should be making in life and stuff like that. And it's just really good. I'd recommend it to anybody. This book should get so much more praise and so much more hype because I enjoyed it so much. It has great representation, some great topics and discussions inside of it. So everybody, please go read this book and rave about it because it's really good. Right, so then I was participating in the Basically Readathon by Basically Rit. Hi Rit, I love you, you're my friend. And I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I read 7 books that day. Yeah, because I also finished The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza that day. So I finished 7 books during that readathon, which is a little bit crazy, I know. And I also vlogged that entire readathon, so if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. I read a couple of short stories and a couple of just really short books in general, because I wanted to read a lot, you know. And I actually read a lot of things that I really enjoyed, but I'm going through these a little bit quicker. So I read Clover by Charlie Jane Anders, and Charlie Jane Anders also wrote All the Birds in the Sky, which is a book I've been wanting to read for forever, and I still haven't read it. And all I know about All the Birds in the Sky is that it's supposedly about a witch and a scientist, I think. And they might be lesbians, but probably not. Maybe I made that up, I don't know. But Clover is a novella by Charlotte Jane Anders, and it's basically about magical cats that live with a gay couple, and it's really good, and I enjoyed it so much. Very humorous, a lot of fun. Then I listened to The Strange Case of Sir Arthur Carmichael, a short story by Agatha Christie. I love everything that Agatha Christie writes. She's so good at mystery. She's so good at plots and everything like that. Love it, really good. It's also about a ghost, sort of, and yeah. It gets revealed at the end how it's all plotted and stuff, and it's really good. Then I read The Autobiography of a Traitor and a Half Savage by Alex E. Harrow, which is quite a short book by Alex E. Harrow, and I recently read The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow, and I really enjoyed that book. And this is one of her other stories, and it's basically about this fantasy land where people are there's indigenous people and there's like sort of conquerors, and the indigenous people help guide the conquerors through their lands, and they're sort of traitors, but they have to because they have to like survive and stuff. And it's a story about one girl in particular who leads the conquerors through her native lands, but then she learns to sort of control her powers, and she might overthrow them and stuff like that, and that's what it's about. It's really good. Enjoyed it. Loved it. Okay, and then I read A Burden Shared by Joe Walton, which is sort of a futuristic sci-fi-esque book about this world where you can share your pain. So, for example, if you'd have a chronic illness, you could give your pain to somebody else, like your mother or your brother or anybody really, through this app, and you can like share pain. This is really about taking care of yourself before you take care of others, and it's really interesting. Then I read Blue is a Darkness Weakened by Light by Sarah McCarry, which is a book about a girl that's I think writing a novel about vampires, or she's correcting a novel about vampires because she works for a publisher, and then there's this vampire who she's friends with. He's looking over her shoulder whilst she's working, and he's sort of making fun of her, but this is a really fun book. The last book I read during this readathon was Driepak or Driepak by Margie Woodrow, Joost Klein and Karin Amat-Moukrim, which is a Dutch book that is from the Dutch Book Week, because here in the Netherlands we always have Dutch Book Week, and during Dutch Book Week it's like nationally there's a lot of attention for books and reading in general, and this is 3 short stories for the Dutch Book Week for the youth. These writers are all writers that are popular with the youth right now, or that are important to our literature. I really liked seeing what's going on out there, and it was interesting enough. It wasn't like my favourite thing ever, but I enjoyed reading it. That was all the stuff that I read during the readathon. Then afterwards, I read Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. This is from the library. It should have been returned a long time ago, but since COVID-19 happened, I don't have to return anything to the library, so that's like a blessing and a curse at the same time. I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart a really long time ago, I think 2 years now, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it so much. The plot twist was amazing, the whole book, the writing, it's very lyrical, it's like super purple prose. You really have to get used to it. E. Lockhart has like such her own way of writing, and I thought Genuine Fraud would be like it, but to be honest, it's nothing like it. I did, however, enjoy it. This is a story about two girls, really, Imogen and what's the other one called? Oh my god, I forgot. Right, this is a story about two girls, Imogen and Jewel, and they're best friends, and something happened to Imogen, but we don't know what. She supposedly killed herself, but we're not sure, and this book is told backwards, so that's really interesting. It's not chronologically told. If you're looking for a murder mystery YA, or for just a mystery YA, I would highly recommend this, because it's so different than anything else that's out there. It's really innovative. Really enjoyed it. But it's not really like We Were Liars, so maybe first read this and then read We Were Liars, because they're very different. And I think if you compare this to We Were Liars, you will not like it as much, even though it's really good. So yeah. What's the next book that I read? Let's see. Okay. Then I read this book by Judith Orloff. It's called, I've got nowhere. I've got to translate this because I read it in Dutch. Leven met hooggevoeligheid. Tips voor de empathische persoonlijkheid. The Empaths Survival Guide. Life Strategies for Sensitive People. I don't talk about this a lot, but I'm quite sensitive, and I'd say that I'm a high sensitive person. I feel a lot. I have a lot of emotions. I'm very intuitive, and I can really read a room and like feel all the energies that are going on. And you maybe think that I'm a little bit nuts right now, or that I'm like a bit like not right in the head, but I definitely am, and this is just, I look at it this way. But this book is sort of a survival guide for people that are empaths and that are very sensitive, and it was really good, to be honest. And I don't really know what else to say about it. It's a very practical book, and it's not at all like, it's spiritual in a way, but it's also very down to earth, because it's just talking about how you can deal with life and how you can use your sensitivities for good, because it is really a power to be sensitive, and I myself often view it as a curse, even though it can be such a power. So this is a really interesting book if you're more sensitive and if you want to learn more about it. I listened to it on audiobook, which was an amazing decision, because it's really nice to it was so calming, and it also has like meditations and like exercises you can do to sort of learn to channel your sensitivity in a better way. Doing those meditations guided, so with the audiobook, was really great. So I'd recommend that to anybody who's more sensitive or who wants to learn more about sensitive people. The next book that I read was Anansi Boys by Neil Gaiman, and I got this gorgeous copy for my birthday. I didn't share it in my birthday haul because it hadn't come in yet, but oh my god, look at this. It is so pretty. It's super pretty. Really happy with this one. I read Anansi Boys by Neil Gaiman, which is an adult story, and it's basically about these two sons of the god Anansi, and one of them is called Fat Charlie, and he's engaged to this girl called Rosie, but then like not really in love, and he's not super happy. He's working for this company with this corrupt leader called Graham Coates, and Graham Coates is a bit of a dickhead, really. Yeah, then their father dies, and Fat Charlie finds out he has a brother, which is a half-god called Spider, and from there on they go on this amazing adventure, and it's so funny. It reminds me a lot of Douglas Adams and of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so it's very humoristic. It's a bit absurd at times, but in the best way possible. So if you're looking for a quick read, because this is a bundle up of American Gods and Anansi Boys. I think Anansi Boys is actually quite a short book. I listened to it on audiobook. I think it's taught by Martin Freeman or by Neil Gaiman himself. I don't remember, but it's really good. So look it up. The next thing that I read in April is Poison Study by Maria V. Schneider, which is The Chronicles of Ixia Part 1. This was one of my favourite fantasy series growing up. It's very classic YA fantasy. It's got all of the tropes, but I love it. And to be honest, it wasn't as bad as I'd expected going back into it after all these years. I've got the whole series in my bookcase right now, and I'm really looking forward to dive back into this. It's really nostalgic for me. This is about Elena Zoltana, who's imprisoned because she's murdered the son of her master. So she grew up in an orphanage, and the son of her master, she's murdered him. She's basically on death row, but instead of being killed, she gets chosen to be the new commander's food taster, and so she has to taste for poisons every time, betting her life every time. And from there on, this is basically about politics and stuff like that, but it's really good. It's really fun. There's romance, there's everything, all of the tropes. Highly recommend if you're looking for just a light YA fantasy read, because it's like not super deep and amazing or anything, but it's really fun. And it's just, with series like that, it's just nostalgic for me, Then the last book that I read in April is The Final Empire Mistborn Book 1 by Brandon Sanderson. And as some of you guys might have seen in my vlog, I was so sad about this because it really turned out to be one of my new favourites, and I'm probably like, okay, so why were you sad? Because I found out through Twitter that Brandon Sanderson has said some really harmful things about being gay and about the LGBTQ community. And so I did my own research, I looked up some stuff, and I was just really disappointed with that, really, because this fantasy series is in a way about sort of not having prejudices towards people who are different than you, and that you write this and then go and like be not LGBTQ friendly. It's just astonishing to me. I discussed that in that vlog because I wanted to just share it with you guys and talk about it. And I got actually a lot of comments saying that Brandon Sanderson has really changed his ways, and that he's even written in some queer representation in his last books and being very positive about it. He's really trying to make an effort to look at his own privilege and be different and change. And I think that's very special, actually. That's like great. So I'm ready to fully support this now. And I know there's still people out there that think he's not trying hard enough, but I've done some of my research and this is where I stand from now on. So I'm really grateful because you guys, this was one of the favourite things, my favourite things really. This is one of the I can't even talk right now. It's been such a long time since I've read something and loved it so freaking much. It is so good. Oh my god, okay. This is Mistborn Book 1, and it's basically about, we follow two main characters, I think, Kelsier and Vin. And Kelsier is a Mistborn, and he has all of the powers, so there's like different powers in this world, and yeah, he has all of them. Vin is just a street urchin. She grew up on the streets, and she's a thief, and they're basically ruled by this evil man who's called the Lord Ruler, and he's overthrown the entire Final Empire. And this is basically just a fantasy story of what if the Dark Lord had won, and it's really interesting. And so it's sort of a street gang going on a heist yet again. Yes, I know, all my favourite books are about street gangs going on heists in a fantasy setting. Yeah, something's wrong with me, definitely. But I love this so much. It's got like so many elements of my favourite books, and it's also got like a lot of like court politics going on and like ball gowns and stuff like that, and it's just, it's like somebody mashed up all the elements of things I love so dearly to my heart and put them in one book, and this is that book. I talked about the Gemstone trilogy in one of my other videos where I ranked all the series that I've ever read, and this definitely has elements of that. I feel like there's parts of Scythe in this with the Steel Inquisitors and stuff. I feel like there's parts of Six of Crows in this, definitely. I think Lee Bardugo might have been inspired by this a bit. It's just got elements of everything I love so dearly, and it's just so fun, and there's so much good banter in there, and it's very character-driven, but there's also plot going on. You guys know I love character-driven fantasies, and I'm here for all of the banter. Yeah, love this so much. Would recommend it to anybody. And I immediately started in part 2, so I'm super ready to fully dive into that as well. Okay, so those were all the books that I read in April. It's been a while since I actually did a wrap up on this channel, so I really enjoyed filming this, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching this as well. So yeah, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and definitely tell me in the comments down below what you read in April, and if you've read any of the books I talked about, and yeah, stuff like that. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!